I'm mostly over movies about the pandemic, but leave it to Ari Aster to not exactly give us a perfect movie about the subject, but certainly one of the better movies about it. Now, it's not exactly the deepest, it doesn't really provide any sort of insightful commentary or tell us anything we didn't already know, but at the very least, it is consistently funny. Aster manages to take something that's still fresh in everyone's mind and find a lot of humor out of it, often pretty dark humor. With it taking place in May 2020, Aster takes several key moments from those early days of the pandemic that were awful to live through, and he manages to get some good laughs out of them. And in a way, I didn't think it was considered punching down. There were criticisms surrounding this that it's too apolitical or takes a both sides approach that it shouldn't have given the subject matter. And again, while it's not particularly deep, I'd say it does clearly have a side, even if it's not always the crux of the movie. Maybe it's just one of those things that's all perspective based, but regardless, I didn't think it was in poor taste about such recent events. Now, there are definitely a lot of storylines going on here, and if anything, my criticism would ultimately lie in it being too long, and that some of its storylines don't feel fully fleshed out. In particular, while I generally enjoy Emma Stone and Austin Butler, and they were both good here, it felt like they both had nothing roles, and they were there more in service of Joaquin Phoenix's character and to chronicle his downfall, because even with him being our protagonist, he's not portrayed as the most likable guy. A lot of the tension stems from him being against the lockdowns, which is what inspires him to run for mayor against Pedro Pascal, and a lot of it's played for laughs, but without getting into spoilers, it also results in him performing more extreme acts as things go on. And it's one of those tricky things, because when you have an unlikable lead character, it can definitely tank the whole movie, but I feel like between the performances, the humor, and other characters who are more sympathetic, it helped balance that out. But again, yeah, it could have definitely been shortened and tightened up some of its subplots involving some of the other townspeople, such as Phoenix's deputies or Pascal's son and his friends. Not that any of those were bad, just not as strong as the mayor's race between Phoenix and Pascal. What I will say though is that, again without spoilers, it does take a pretty wild turn in the last 20 to 30 minutes or so, in a way that I found to be very entertaining and definitely a bit unpredictable. It is a bit of a tonal shift and might be a slight turnoff for some. It might not come across as 100% the most grounded, but I thought the film organically built up to it so that it wasn't jarring, and as a result, I found it to stick the landing in a very strong way. And overall, I thought it made this a really solid film. Ari Aster's movies might not always be perfect, but if there's one thing you can always count on him for, it's that he makes such unique films with plenty to talk about, for better or worse, and that's once again the case here.